Hi, everyone, and welcome back to The Aesthetic Edge, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on thriving med spas, skincare brands, aesthetic businesses, and talk about what's actually working right now in marketing and what's not. I'm your host, Bethany Gifford, your go-to aesthetic growth consultant and strategist who helps med spa owners, practitioners, beauty entrepreneurs, and more scale with more clientele, stronger branding, and streamlined systems. Today's episode is a special one. We're talking about an award-winning skincare line, building two thriving brands, and what it's like to run a business as a mother and son team. But first, a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by New Era Intel. At New Era Intel, we help medical spas, dermatology clinics, and plastic surgery practices who are struggling with inconsistent patient retention, underutilized CRM systems, and manual systems that hold back your clinic's growth potential so they can finally increase quality repeat bookings, streamline operations with AI automation, and grow predictable monthly revenue with the right systems and strategy. They're able to create a premium, seamless patient experience while freeing up their team to focus on what they do best. If you would like to take your business to the next level, head over to neweraintel.com to get started.
My guests today are Donna Scott, founder of Secret Med Spa and creator of Lucce Bee Skincare, and her son and business partner, Stephen Levchenco. Donna's work has earned national recognition from Allure, InStyle, Vogue, and much more. She spent over 18 years perfecting advanced skincare techniques, developing clinical products, and now mentoring other providers. Stephen joined during the pandemic and has been instrumental in scaling both spa and product line, leading digital growth, influencer campaigns, and media strategies. Donna and Stephen, welcome to the Aesthetic Edge. We are so excited to have you both here today.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Well, let's just dive in. Donna, what inspired you to open Secret Med Spa, and what was your vision for it?
So originally, when I opened up, I had no idea, at the time of the whole entire aesthetic and medical aesthetic industry. I did it as a continuing education. I had a wellness practice, and I thought I would offer it as an ancillary service. And what happened next was, we hit the ground running in Philadelphia. We had, a lot of people getting results. And so in the city, it became like word of mouth. And then I was doing treatments, and I didn't know that the InStyle magazine, they come in undercover. And so when I won the Black Book Award, that's what opened the door. And then I started doing the Oscars, the Grammys, New York Fashion Week, MTV Movie Awards. And that's what, put me where I am today.
That's amazing. Yeah, you have definitely scaled up for celebrity status for sure.
Yeah.
What was the moment, that you realized that the spa had become like a true destination for transformation?
I guess, there were multiple moments back to back. Like when I won the InStyle Award, he was young. He was still in a high school, so I was a hockey mom. So when the editor, Carrie Molivar, told me, I just had no idea. And then I met one of my first publicists, which is Antoine Johnson. And then, when I went to the MTV Movie Awards, I just had all these other opportunities come up. Then I came back to Philadelphia. We did Fashion Week. And then I met people from all these different production companies, and I started doing procedures in the gifting lounges. And so that's really when I started in New York City a lot, because being concierge service as a celebrity facialist, you have everybody calling you. So then I started doing Fashion Week. And from there, it was just like one event after the next.
That's
it was
amazing.
just so much happening very quickly.
I bet. You rose up fast, girl.
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening, but I'm very grateful I had Antoine because, you know, he was by my side. And then I met, Joe Exclusive, and we did gifting lounges at the Grammys. And I remember being there, like that was when Whitney Houston passed away. And it
Oh,
was so unbelievable because we were staying at the Beverly Hills Hilton, and they had that beautiful memorial. And it was just like a very like surreal moment because we had to still work, and it was so sad. So that will forever be a moment for me.
I bet. Yeah, what a pivotal time point for you at that place.
Yeah, yeah,
Full of emotions on
yeah,
both sides, career and excitement, and then, tragedy all at the same.
yeah,
Well, I mean, you kind of started out solo a little bit and built this
yeah.
team. What did that look like? How was that growth possible for you at the time?
So I actually had a staff at the time before I became concierge celebrity facialist. And my camp, they came with me. So we were offering multiple services during the award shows or during the productions. And then when I started doing treatments in New York, I rented space on Park Avenue from Dr. Howard Sobel. And I did that for several years. And then um, my husband and I wanted to have a baby. And when I got pregnant with Sophia, that's when I decided to do concierge in New York, and not, because we were so excited about having, our youngest daughter,
That's amazing.
Sophia.
Well, at what point, because we're obviously here to highlight both of your, big successful businesses, at what point did Lucce Bee come into life? Like, what was the pivot between med spa to full skincare line?
So it's probably about the time that I came in. It was right around COVID. I was in between jobs and just kind of talking to my mom about what I'm going to do next. And she's like, why don't you just come in with me and start doing some treatments? I'll teach you how to do them, and you can go through the certifications and you can start doing treatment. So I was in the treatment room with her for probably about 6 to 9 months. And, one day she came in and was like, I always knew that she wanted to start a brand. So one day she came in and she's like, what do you think if we add a skincare line to our business? And I was like, yeah, I'm all for it. So that was probably about 2021, and we've been grinding at it ever since.
That's
So there's
amazing.
there's a couple of points I'd like to make. When he came in and did the treatments, the clients were thinking he was better than me. So I finally had some competition. Yeah, they called him the wizard, you know, and that was really great because just to catch on, and then to have, the clients that I have that want the results. And so that was just amazing. But I think a big piece that he's leaving left out is that I have always been word of mouth. So my website presence, my social media presence, I really didn't like it. To be clear, I thought it was like, I wanted people to have that element of privacy. So, I mean, I actually didn't have like a really great website until my son came in, and he also did the web development for Lucci. And then for the Donna Scott Secrets, med spa site, we had Nalu do that, which they did an amazing job. But to be honest with you, um, I had no presence. Everything was happening because of credentials, and then my son, which led into, bigger moments, which I shared with you. Um, we met a team. We have a firm representing us now. And at the time, they said like, how come people don't hear of you? And I said, well, if my son didn't do the website for Lucci, I still would have been like a word of mouth concierge provider. And so I give him a lot of credit for that, because now, we are working with a firm, and we really, are excited to expand, even though I do like, the privacy model. It's, a different generation, I guess you could say. And like my work speaks for itself. So when people say, oh, you should do this, like my clients are walking around, they're my advertisement. But with the brand, I definitely give Stephen all the credit for us being, recognized and in the contract now with our firm. And we love our firm.
I mean,
Yeah.
referrals are great, and especially walking, talking, marketing faces, obviously,
Yes.
that's the best.
Yes.
Because women talk, well, men talk too, but, us women, we talk a lot, always telling our
Yes.
little secrets to everybody. But yeah, I can definitely relate. It gave a pivotal point in my agency where I'm like, you know what? I need to employ a little bit younger generation because they know more, they know what's going on, they've grown up with it a little bit more than I have, and it's amazing. It's amazing what
Yes.
get in there.
Technology.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. So
Well,
he does. He
yeah.
does have me doing TikTok now, and we're going to start the
Oh, there you go.
YouTube channel. So we have so much, exciting, educational, branding to do. It's like in the beginning, he'll tell you, I was like, no, we don't do that here. And he's like, hello, get out of the cave. So I'm out of the cave now.
He's like, we do now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about Lucce Bee. Like, how does it stand out from other like clinical skincare brands on the market?
Lucce Bee it's a lateral move from the procedures. So it is a light-based device with 5 different settings that we integrate for every age, skin tone, type, and target issue. So it's actually like receiving a treatment from here at your house. So it's very convenient. It's a higher ingredient level, so you can see the results. And, it's something that I created for us to be able to really expand and share great skincare results, along with for the providers, which I think is a really big opportunity. And we're going to be putting Zoom classes together. Within the framework, there's an opportunity for the providers to offer the service and have a service menu. So here, you'll be using a working model for 18 years that you educate the patient on what to use for their issues and how to maintain it. And that will help the providers generate the passive revenue. So we're really excited about these classes for the providers as well as for the consumers.
Absolutely. I mean, education is everything.
Yes.
It's fun word of mouth, and I'm trying this and it's wonderful. But when you really get down to the nitty gritty, people are really wanting to be careful what they do to their face and put in their face and on their face and in their bodies. So I think that's really cool. I think that'll be
Yeah.
a great
That's the
segue to be able
retention.
to,
A lot of people say, how have you been here for 18 years? It's patient education that creates retention.
100%. Well, I mean, running both a med spa and a product line, and doing consulting, that's not for the faint of heart. I mean, you're doing a lot. How do you manage the balance between running like a service-based practice and a growing product-based practice?
Well, Stephen is now he's no longer offering services. Sorry.
Okay.
He just couldn't do it. So he's the, main person for Lucce Bee. He's the leader of that team. I'm the leader of the procedure team. And then, we will be, interviewing people now so that we can expand, because that's what's happening. So
Yeah, I
Awesome.
usually when she's in the treatment room, I'm in the office, just, trying to think of more ways to expand and grow. And then
shipping.
whenever she's out of the treatment room is really when we kind of brainstorm and kind of
Right.
throw our ideas at the wall and try and figure out how the way she's saying it and the way I'm interpreting it can finally mesh up. And we get to that point and we usually see eye to eye pretty quickly with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's like a dream team.
Yeah.
I love that. My
It
son's
works
17
that
and a
we,
half,
we
so
don't live with each other,
I would love
Bethany, so
that.
that helps.
Yeah,
We have the
right.
break.
I know. I was telling my son, I'm like, this mother and son, they're in business together. It's so amazing. He's like, Mom. I was like, I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you have to wait
If
till
he
they move
could.
out because you need that buffer.
True. Very true. Very true. Well, you work as a consultant as well, so helping
Yeah.
other providers kind of elevate their brand and even launch products. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So that also happened during the pandemic on LinkedIn. There were several firms in New York, CapVision, Tegas, Intellecta, and those firms, they reached out. And if you were opening a med spa or if you were considering offering a service, purchasing a device, they contacted and then, hired me on a retainer. And we went through several projects and still, they're really great to work with. Now, I was telling Stephen also, I would like to get into private consulting to, expand our family business and be able to help people become successful and to do what works. Then with the brands, back in 2013, when I was working, I told you this on our discussion, I was working with Love and Hip Hop and Mama Jones. That's how the brand door opened because I started creating relationships with different labs, and then I helped people formulate and do the creatives for their brand, and that's how those relationships happened. And then there was like the indie wave storm, and it wasn't like really good at that time if you were a committed person and working, because all these people just rushed in, so you couldn't really, the supply chain changed. So now it's back to like professionals wanting real brands, and we help people cultivate real brands off of, the information or business that they're working for or what they're looking to do.
Med spa owners, dermatology clinics, plastic surgery practices, if they wanted to brand something and get your consultation on it, could they come to you?
Yes. Now
Great.
they definitely can. So, they can contact via Lucce Bee or the DonnaScottSecrets.com website, and they can contact directly, because
Awesome.
we're still in our infancy. After 5 years, working with the firms in New York, we're in our infancy of creating what that looks like. But a lot of it's duplication of what the larger firms are doing to respect privacy. And then also, if a brand concept comes out, you want to have your own brand identity, your own creative, and know that you're with someone that you can trust.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're going to have like knockoffs, And if you, become this global brand, you could be a knockoff, but it's not going to be with my lab.
Out of her mouth, folks. That's amazing. Quality over quantity, people.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, what would a provider like need to have in place before launching their own skincare line? Because I know a lot of listeners and people that I've talked to and clients that we worked with have always shot out the idea of, I'd love to do my own skincare line. Like, what's one or two things you would tell the listeners to do prior to doing that?
I would say that you want to have a solid concept. You know, there's so many different products, but if you don't have, a concept and a direction, you're just going to be like, that's just vitamin C, that's just collagen. And especially now with all this noise. And so it's like on social media, everybody's saying, use vitamin C, where we've been saying that for years, and we have the educational model behind it. So when we work with our clients and our consumers, they understand that it's the staple for great skin. And so the second part is, if you have a base, right? Because coming in with nothing like I did, there was a lot of legwork, and there's a whole old school way that I did it, and then my new school way. So, if you have a database and you already have that trust with your clients, then you're going to do a lot better. If you are just starting out and you have huge belief and passion for your work, then you're going to do great. And then I think combining both is where the success will come for our clients.
That's great. That's great advice. I love that. Because every business survives off client trust and loyalty. And I know you've got some extremely powerful strategies there. What's
Yeah.
your kind of go-to strategy for client retention or like long-term loyalty?
Okay, I'm going to give everybody out there a really good strategy, because I had lunch last week with one of my friends that owns one of the great spas in Philadelphia. And she said, Donna, like, it's the time, there's this like weird thing going on right now where, people aren't spending. And I said, well, you always have to look at it like you don't want to believe a headline. Like, if I would have believed that in 2009, I wouldn't be here today. So you can't feed your energy into a headline. And I said, how about when people walk out, you make sure they're scheduled for their next visit? And she was like, that's amazing, because that's going to help you create the dynamic that they're going to come back and you're going to give them another service. And that puts the energy out in your future. So I think it's really important that, people aren't just like thinking it's just a facial or just a massage or just a laser, that you're letting them know, like, one treatment is good, 3 treatment is better, 6 treatment is preferred. Can I schedule you for 1 more visit or 6? Because it depends on the service you're doing. Obviously, if it's laser hair removal, they have to. But if you're offering, facials and you have somebody booked for 6 months, they really love it. And that's how you're going to keep the relationship. They're committed and you're committed.
I love that. Well, I know a lot of our listeners are going to be fascinated by your working relationship together because not everybody can run a family business and do it well. Stephen, kind of what made you decide to join in? I know you said, during COVID and, kind of learning the ropes, but what was your deciding factor to just jump on in and get going with your mom?
Well, with her kind of starting in 2007, 2008, I mean, majority of my life with her has been around skincare, So, like, even there was a brief time in college when I was coming in to just kind of help her clean up in between treatments. So, just kind of always been educated on it through her. So it wasn't anything that was unfamiliar. So that's kind of why I jumped in.
Built-in passion.
Yep.
He grew
That's a
up
great.
here.
I love that. I love that. I know a lot of
I
we have a
love
lot
I
of
do-
oh
I
yeah, we have
love
a
the
lot of moms, that are aesthetic practitioners, and I always hear like, yeah, we bring our kids on the weekends and sometimes during, and I love that. I did the same thing when I worked in dermatology. My son came along, his school was next door, and he would come in and sit with me at my desk, and we would do a lot of things together. So I love that.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, a lot of the faces that you still see coming in the door today. I've known them for 15 years, just from coming down to her practices and meeting them there. And she loves her kids, so she's always talking to them about me and my sisters. So when they finally put the face to the name, it was always nice. So.
That's great. Wonderful dynamic. I love it. Well, what's next for Lucce Bee? Any new products, retail partnerships? I know you guys said you were going to doing some educational stuff coming out, so that's incredible. But do you see yourself in the next 6 to 12 months expanding globally?
I do, yeah. I definitely we've had some discussions. Again, we go back and forth about, like, right now we're not everywhere. That's on purpose. There has to be an exclusivity element to what you're doing Otherwise, it cheapens it. So we have had discussions with brands in London and other places that reached out to us. But right now, I think it's important to focus on educating the consumers and our DTC, as well as creating the opportunity for the professionals. And I feel that's really important because of the service menu can generate revenue. And then we know that this is a working model, and your clients will come back all the time to get the service and use the products because they're an educated consumer.
Absolutely. Yeah. It really builds a brand. We always talk about slow grow. We work with a lot of clients that are just like, I want to be from 0 to 60 tomorrow. And I'm like, well, you know, let's get there. Let's work it up. Let's build it
Yeah.
right. Let's build it
Yes.
correct.
Better to
Awesome.
have a stronger foundation than to go fast and fail,
Absolutely. Great advice for sure. Well, this has been a extremely inspiring conversation. I've been having a lot of people ask me about skincare lines and what to do about that and the transition between, med spa ownership and product-based services. So this has been really good. Is there anything as far as your med spa and skincare line, as far as legacy that you are wanting to leave behind?
It's a big question. I mean, I guess, the legacy is knowing that you did the best you could and you gave all of it, so that my children and their children, for years to come, they'll just know that we did the best we could, and we are one of the best.
Absolutely. And you are, for
Yeah.
sure. Huge legacy.
Yeah.
So, one last question I wanted to ask you about your skincare line. How did you come up with the name Lucce Bee?
So this was, if you like, maybe one time we should put this on our YouTube channel since we're developing that. Lucce is Italian for light. And so we put the extra C in because we care. And then the B is life. So it's a metaphor. It means light life. And eventually, we'd like to move into doing a 501c and supporting the bees. And so it just came like over time, really. We had several names. We had several logos. We paid a lot of money. Just our logo looks simple, but we could show you
A lot of different renditions of it.
I bet.
We went through a lot of logos to get what we got.
Yeah. So we felt like Lucce Bee, light life, like just use the products, don't worry, look and feel good. We know it works. It's been working forever, as long as I've been doing it. So, and we have all these clients that if they don't come, they don't feel happy, like they'll say like they leave, it just lights them up. And that's really important for people to be able to use products and know why they're using them and then keep coming back, and then they feel great and then we feel great. It's very, very rewarding.
I love that. We're definitely in the people business.
Yes.
People sometimes lose that. They realize there's a lot of emotion involved in what we do and provide for people. So
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for kind of letting us get into the nitty gritty of your business and your relationship as a mother and son duo.
Yeah.
Where can people find you online? Consulting, med spa, skincare. Give us all
The
the locations.
boss.
Gotta go
So-
through him, huh?
So you can find us online at www.lucebee.com, and then on all socials at Lucce Bee. And then any questions for anything down at the bottom, just send us a message. It'll get to our email, and then we can get back to you as soon as we get it.
Excellent. Excellent. And Donna,
And
you had
remember-
talked about giving our listeners a little discount code if they.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember to
Yeah, and anyone listening now, if you want to try any Lucce Bee products, again, www.lucebee.com, and once you pick out whatever products you like, use code AE20 for 20% off at checkout.
20% off, y'all. That's a big deal. Well, I know personally, I am so excited to use the product, and I know a lot of our listeners will be too. Thanks again for
Thank you so
coming
much.
onto the show, and we are so excited to have you and see where this goes. We'll be following
Thank
your
you.
steps here. So,
Thank you so
Okay,
much for
great.
having us.
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.